Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience, episode number 436.
Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black Entrepreneur Experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovator thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. Are you a nonprofit struggling to scale your programs in a meaningful way? Lean in and listen to CEO and founder of Boss on a Budget, Tiffany J. Allen. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Sure. So Boss on a Budget came out of a love for teaching and wanting to uplift people who are doing great work in communities, but don't know how to leverage 501c3 status or need more money in order to scale. So Boss on a Budget teaches people to start their nonprofits from the ground up, but also raise money, because you can start and fill out paperwork, but you can't really go too far without the financial resources. So I have a platform where I teach people on YouTube, over 25,000 people on YouTube, about how to start responsibly, how to make the right decision about whether a nonprofit is really for you, and then how to raise money. And that could be from various sources, including grant writing.
Tell us your backstory. Why nonprofits?
So I have an interesting story that got me here. So I tell people all the time, I started my first nonprofit with my church and I failed miserably. We didn't go very far at all. And then fast forward years later, my ex was launching a nonprofit and I kind of stepped in to handle the administrative side. And I began to fail again because I didn't know anything about what it took to run a nonprofit. I thought we're just a regular business. We just fill out this paperwork here and there and we're good. But there were so many rules, so many expectations, and I was literally learning on the fly. And so I started looking around for information on like how to do this the right way, how to raise money, because he was bootstrapping it. He was using his own money. And there was nothing around how to raise money when you literally have nothing to start with. So I learned along the way about how to do that. And the interesting thing was, at the same time, I was working on my 9-to-5. I work with national foundations and I provide technical assistance to the grantees. And I noticed how they were funding organizations, and it was not traditionally through proposals. It was through relationships. So that inspired me to start teaching on the side how to get grant money through relationships. And then it eventually morphed into, how do you just start a nonprofit? How do you get the money you need to do some good? So that's how I kind of got to this place here.
Tell us one of your amazing success stories.
I think one of my favorite is a man named Victor McGuire reached out to me from YouTube in 2020. It was right after George Floyd had been murdered. And he was a coach. Well, he is a coach. So he does coaching for Facebook, LinkedIn, high-level coaching. And he was explaining to me that he wants to bring that level of coaching to people who can't afford it because it's life-changing. And he also explained to me that there aren't many people of color in the coaching field. So he had this idea of raising $100,000 to start an organization called Coaching for Everyone, where people could get access to high-level coaching, and also more Black coaches and other people of color could get certified, because it's a very expensive process and a lengthy process for your certification. So he said, I have this idea, Tiffany. I don't know if it'll work. What do you think? So I took his idea, I finessed it a little bit, cleaned it up, and executed his fundraising campaign for him. And in about 5 months, we raised $117,000 so he could launch his organization. And the organization is still thriving to this day, and they're still doing great work. And I'm very, very proud of what we were able to do.
Thank you for sharing that. What is something that people in the nonprofit space that they should know, but they don't know?
That's a good question. I think people should know that starting a nonprofit does not mean you are the owner of your nonprofit. So that means that you may have a vision, an idea of how you want it to go, but the plans and the direction that the organization takes is based on the board. It's based on what the board believes is the best for the organization, not necessarily what you believe is best or what's best for you. So a lot of times people approach their nonprofits like it's their own personal project, when in fact it's an independent organization that you're starting that is serving its own mission, not your personal mission. And a lot of people do not separate that, especially when they begin to grow. And a lot of people don't realize that you're not necessarily entitled to stay with your nonprofit, to be paid by your nonprofit. So you just need to be mindful about how you plan and make sure like you have some kind of succession plan and that you don't get too tied into the nonprofit. I know it's personal. I know people, really want to see their own personal mission be fulfilled, but you have to remember it's an independent organization and you don't own it.
There's so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Talk about a brand or a business that's dominating that you admire and why.
I think in the nonprofit space, I admire St. Jude's because they're really good at marketing. And I often tell people who are trying to raise money to look at their model, look at how they are unapologetic about raising money, even though they're a nonprofit, and look at their span and their reach. Now, there are ways that I wish St. Jude could even do more because they raise so much money. They raise billions of dollars, but they're still a great example to watch of how to talk about your issue and how to instill hope in people. Because when you see their commercials, like I see their commercials on YouTube all the time, you're sad for the children, but you still feel a sense of hope that something can be different and just gratefulness that St. Jude is available for families. And that model, that formula they use is perfect. So I really do admire how St. Jude's can kind of energize and mobilize people to give.
Tiffany, you talked about when you started learning about nonprofit, you was working a 9 to 5. Are you still doing hybrid or are you full-time in your business?
I am full-time in my business as of a year and 3 months.
Talk about that day quit.
I am a very thoughtful person, so it took me a long time to finally transition. I knew probably for about 3 or 4 years that I wanted to go full-time, but I needed to feel comfortable for myself in order to do that. And I had a very supportive employer who helped me transition and gave me a few projects to help me transition. So I work in the child welfare space. I do a lot of work in foster care and adoption, and I still do projects in that realm, but it enables me to also build my business more with Boss on a Budget so that I can reach more people and I can have a bigger impact. So right now I'm doing coaching with nonprofit founders, and I'm also selling ebooks and products like workbooks and master classes and things like that. And also speaking and building up my speaking catalog to get paid to speak and consult with large organizations.
What is something you wish you knew before starting your business that you would like to share?
I wish I knew how to market better. I am a social worker, and I've always admired business owners, but I never had like a business mentor. My dad was always into business, and he dibbled and dabbled, but didn't have any formal training, and neither did I. So I know how to social work. I know how to strategize. I know how to analyze because I'm also a researcher, but I didn't know, and still learning how to market and how to be unapologetic about my product and not be afraid to sell my product and believe in the value of my product. I think those are things that I wish I had grasped sooner or have been taught sooner, so I wouldn't be afraid to put myself out there. But I'm getting better now and I appreciate that. But I've realized that probably 80% of what you do is marketing and business, and 20% is actually doing it. So that's been a journey for me.
What is your zone of genius?
My zone of genius, if I understand the question, I think is problem solving, is identifying where the issues are, analyzing the root and getting to the root of those issues and coming up with strategies to address those problems. So I'm really good. I'm a good thinker, good strategizer to help people kind of see a path forward and help people to organize their thinking so that they can move forward.
Who's your ideal client?
My ideal client when I work with nonprofit founders is someone who has either thinking about starting a nonprofit or they've just filled out the paperwork and they're really unsure of the path forward. Ideally, they would have a board of people who are ready to execute. They have a team of people working with them who are bought into the mission, who just need help figuring out what the next steps are. And they're ready. They've raised a little bit of money, but they want to see how to leverage what they've done so far to raise more. And they have a good idea of what their programming is. They're clear on their mission. They're clear on their vision. They just need that strategic plan to be able to execute. On the corporate and philanthropy side, my ideal client is a philanthropic organization who wants to support their grantees or local communities to help build their capacity to fundraise better. And so they're looking for someone who can get on the level of the nonprofit founders and teach them about fundraising, teach them how to nurture relationships with donors and funders.
I want you to have a monologue. I'd like you to name this person, living or not, and they've impacted your life so much. Who is that person, and what are you saying to that person?
That person's name is Kim Ward, and she was like a second mother to me. She is deceased. She perished due to cancer. And I would say to Kim, you helped usher me into womanhood. You helped me find my value. You would be amazed right now at the journey that I've taken. And even though I waited too late to listen to you, I did listen to you and take your advice about where to take my life. And I'm grateful for the freedom you showed me, the confidence, the boldness you showed me in order for me to show up the way I do today. And so everything I do reflects what you taught me. Even the name of my business is named after you, Kim. And I just appreciate the time. It wasn't a little time. We had a lot of time, precious memories, but I appreciate the time that we did have together.
What problem, Tiffany, exists in the world today that you would like to solve?
I would like to solve the fractional communities that we have, the disjointed, isolated communities that we have. We used to be, especially in the Black community, we used to be way more tight-knit. There used to be more of a sense of a village, and we could check each other. We could hold each other accountable in love, and we could address the problems because we felt like we were community. We felt like we all were a part of something. And I feel like as Black people, we still feel that, but it's still very, very disjointed. And I wish that we had the resources and the time to plan and dream and work on our families and build community wealth, not just generational wealth within families, but build community wealth, build up our spiritual wealth more. I just wish we could invest in ourselves more and love on each other more, because I do believe that will address what we're seeing in terms of crime and mental health challenges and substance abuse and all that kind of stuff. People feel isolated. People don't feel supported. People lack real, genuine relationships to help them navigate hardships. So I really do believe if we had the time, because we're so bombarded by having to work, so bombarded by tragedies and trauma, it's really hard to see clearly. So if we had the time to sit back, dream, and plan for ourselves, our children, and our communities, that we would really be better.
Speaking of mental health and mental wellness, talk about mental health and entrepreneurship.
So I like to say that the things that you have not addressed personally for yourself will be exposed once you get into business. So the things that you lack, or lack of self-esteem or self-confidence, things like that you have for yourself personally, show up when it's time for you to show up for your business. So if you're not addressing that, then it's it's going to be a hard journey. I think the other thing is you can get so caught up in running a business and trying to stay afloat that you do not pay attention to self-care, you do not set clear boundaries and have a good balance. So it's hard when you're scaling and you're trying to make enough money to survive. You're working nonstop, but it's really important to set those guardrails And it's been very difficult for me because I just work. That's my thing. I like to work. And I've had to literally set days where I don't have any appointments. I have to literally set a time on my calendar that's blocked that no one can book. I've had to be deliberate about taking vacation. And I've had to be deliberate about telling people that I can't help today. And if I don't do that, then I burn out. And if I burn out, then I can't help anyone. And I definitely can't help myself. So it's taken me a while to realize the importance of boundaries and having balance, and that just because I don't finish something, it's not the end of the world. And that my self care and my mental wellness matters so much more than that.
And what does self-care look like for you?
Ooh, self-care is getting facials. Self-care is being intentional about getting massages. Self-care is spending time with my parents, spending time with my godson and my nephews and my niece. Self-care is sitting on my porch and getting sunlight and taking walks. All that matters.
Tell us your why. Why do you do what you do, Tiffany?
I do what I do because I mentioned I'm a social worker. I've worked in the foster care system my whole career, and I've seen how they're the most vulnerable families that end up in the foster care system. And it's because they've gone through this journey where everybody has failed them and they don't really have a lot of support. So the last resort is their children are taken away. And I've seen how child welfare agencies across the country really struggle to meet the needs of the families that they're serving. And I realized that a lot of the solutions they're looking for lie in the communities that they're trying to help. And they don't have the capacity as a government agency to really get the outcomes that they're looking for. But there are people in the community who have the skill sets who can do this. So the reason why I talk so much on Boston a Budget about starting is because there are ideas that are budding that people can't see and don't know about that they deserve light. They deserve people, supporting them and financially giving to them. So my hope is that I can help one person in at least one community rise up and do better by their community by learning how to run a responsible nonprofit, learning how to fundraise so that they can change their community. And eventually that will multiply and hopefully make the world a better place.
And what can we do to support you and Boss on a Budget?
The very first thing is to follow me on YouTube and support me on YouTube. Most of what I share or what I'm doing, I broadcast on my YouTube channel. And if you know any corporation or philanthropic organization that needs someone to speak on the importance of community giving, on the importance of supporting grassroots community movements, I am happy to come and speak on that. So if you have any ideas or any suggestions for that, I'm happy to meet with those organizations as well.
Talk to a younger Tiffany. What advice would you give to a younger Tiffany?
Girl, it's going to be okay. Stop being so uptight and just enjoy the moment. And that's it.
Let's talk about raising capital. How did you raise capital to start your business?
I actually financed my business myself, and I did that by working my 9 to 5 and working my side hustle, which was Boss on a Budget. So I started Boss on a Budget in 2016 and worked it as a side hustle until 2022. So I had a long time to really think through and stash away money so that when I really did transition, I had enough money to feel comfortable with that transition. So I didn't always know that I would be doing Boss on a Budget full time, starting in 2016. I just started. I said, oh, let me try this. Let me see where this goes. But eventually, when I knew that, I started more intentionally putting money to the side because I knew I wanted to have myself on payroll and things like that. So I stashed away the money and made sure I had enough to start and then finance my business that way so I could have money in the bank and took off from there.
And speaking of the capital and the runway, would you recommend someone use that strategy or over the years have you learned another strategy that you would like to share?
I would say if you have the capability, because not everyone can work a side hustle in that way and spend the amount of time I was spending on bossing a budget. But if you have no options, then yes, absolutely stash your money away. Make sure you have a cushion before you transition and make sure you're saving that. I have recently learned more about business funding and business credit and leveraging your personal credit to obtain business funding. And so if that's an option for some folks, I would encourage them to look into that so that they can finance the startup of their business and then pay that, that financing back once they get up and going. But your personal credit does matter. So you do have to make sure that your personal credit profile is okay. And you still can do certain things and strategies to build up your personal credit file and doesn't have to take years and years and years. So I would really encourage people to look into business financing. I am just learning about it myself because I was always afraid of business credit. I was very prideful, like I want to use my money. I don't have to borrow anything. But that was short-sighted. So that can be an option for a few people listening.
And with interest rates going up, we're in an inflationary period. Would you recommend borrowing money now?
I honestly think that's a personal decision for people to figure out. Borrowing money as an individual versus as a business is different. It has different implications. So if it makes sense for you and you have a solid business plan and you know how you're going to recoup that money that you're borrowing and making sure you're able to pay it back, then it absolutely can be an option for you. But it really is a personal decision based on what you believe and what you project in your business.
Tiffany, let's take a snapshot of the last 30 days. What was your biggest win?
My biggest win. So I am in a coaching mastermind with Ashley Kirkwood. She's an amazing Black woman who teaches people how to earn money through speaking. And I have been really struggling about a business idea that I want to launch, trying to figure out how I want to streamline some things in my business. And I've recently had a breakthrough with help with my coaches in that mastermind, with help with some friends and my significant other. And it's been amazing. So I've been able to figure out what I want to focus on and what direction I want to go. And it's so freeing because now I know what the plan is. Now I know what to do. I can start working on it and I can launch. So that has been a major, major win for me.
How do you celebrate those wins?
I tell the people close to me. And, I live on a farm. So I go outside and I just enjoy the sun and the greenery. And I just take time to breathe and take stock of where I've been and make sure I reflect. But yeah, I'm not big on like, hey, let's go out to drink and party. I just celebrated this because the next day I still have to make money. So I just like to celebrate with the people close to me, and that works for me.
And thanks for sharing that personal story around you living on a farm. Was that intentional?
Yes, ma'am. It was very intentional. The pandemic, I think, was hard on everybody, but it was hard on me as well. And I was extremely stressed and gained a lot of weight and just wasn't happy. So I sold my house and intentionally looked in a certain area where I live that is more rural and found an amazing property. And it's like a little farmette. There's a farmer that farms crops on the land. And so I decided to move out here to the country, and I do not regret this decision at all. It's given me so much peace.
Wow, thank you for that. Talk about your top two influencers, mentors, and what lessons did they teach you?
The first one, I would say, and I've never met her, but I love Issa Rae. And I'm not a fangirl of like celebrities. I'm not that type of person who like gets enamored by people who are famous. But I love her authenticity. I love that any space that she occupies, she is unapologetically herself. and is not afraid to be herself. And her whole brand when she started was being the awkward Black girl. And she stayed true to who she was because she is awkward, but she's funny and she's smart and she's strategic. And she taught me that I can be myself, that I can make my own lane, and that people will come, people will be attracted to me. And she has done so many things. I just saw yesterday that she just started her own Prosecco brand. Like she's making Prosecco. And that's a nod to her character in her TV show Insecure, who loved Prosecco. But she's just doing so many different things and she did it on her own terms. And to me, that's amazing because I don't ever want to change who I am. I'm very committed to being genuine and transparent. And I believe that she embodies that. I would also say, so I mentioned my coach, Ashley Kirkwood, who helps Black women speak and earn money through speaking. She's an amazing, amazing person. And she helped me find my value in selling my products and selling who I am and not being afraid to charge my rate. She says, your rate is your rate. So she has helped me along that journey of being unafraid to share my value and letting me know that someone needs to hear from me. Someone needs what I have to offer. So if you are not following Ashley on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, you should be.
If you lost everything and you had to rebuild in 30 days, what industry and why?
I would do something around digital marketing. I would build a website, build traffic toward that website, try to make ad revenue. And I would also build some kind of e-course or sell an ebook quickly. And I think that selling information is it's not a lot of overhead. And you can scale up quickly by building your credibility online. So you can go on social media, and if you post every day and you show up and you're consistent, you can build a following. And if that following trusts you, you can begin to sell to that following. And if I had all the time in the world, because I don't, I would be on Instagram. I would be going live every single day. So, talking about what I do and selling those products.
Thank you for that. If you had to do it over again, that's a redo in life, any event or a moment, is there a redo that you would like to redo and why?
I think overall, my journey hasn't been what I expected, but I understand that that's what it needed to be. So I don't think that I would redo anything. I'm a believer, so I believe that God orders my steps and I have a say in the decisions I make and whether I choose to listen. So that does have an impact on it, but I believe I'm where I am and will be more fulfilled because of what I've experienced. The only thing that I would change probably is in certain moments to say certain things to certain people that I care about that I've lost. I've lost quite a bit of people the past 10 years. So I would just make sure I told them how much I love them more, make sure they felt it. So if I had to redo anything, I would definitely do that.
Thank you for that. Fill in the blank. I am better because
God loves me.
I want you to have a thank fest. I want you to thank people and situations that has really inspired Tiffany.
I will thank my dad for being my first best friend and for his selflessness and for his generosity and his hard work ethic and for holding me down no matter what. He's been my ride or die. I would thank my mom for her toughness, for giving me the mental toughness that I need, for her holding me down because she's a ride or die too, and for just always loving me and showing me true love. I would thank my sister for always watching over me and caring for me, even when she doesn't say it directly. And I would thank my godsons and my nephews for allowing me to experience a different kind of love because I don't have children. And I would thank them for being in my life. And I would thank my friends, my close friends who are more like sisters, for giving me the space to be myself, and allowing me to be in their space. And I would thank my followers. I would thank my followers of Boss on a Budget because they are very loyal, very committed, and are so passionate about what they do and so amazing. I've met so many amazing people doing great things. So I want to thank them for the work that they do, sacrificing time with their family, sacrificing money and all the things just to help somebody else.
What do you need that you don't have to move the needle forward?
I would need a little bit more capital. I would need some more cash, but I'm working on that.
What would you like to do that you have not done in life and you dream about often?
I think that I am where I want to be. There are things that I've dreamt about having and doing that I'm on the path of getting there. I think the biggest dream I've ever had is being able to work for myself and being free of not a 9 to 5 and being able to set and dictate my own schedule. That is the thing that I've dreamed of the most. And that is what I'm right in the middle of. So I don't think there's anything else that I feel like I'm missing or I feel like I haven't been able to attain. And I'm thankful for that.
And how do you reset and refocus when you hit that bump in the road?
Very specific place I go. I go to my grandmother's house and I block off my calendar and I just eat the food that I like to eat and chill out in her chair to remind myself of her. And I just relax.
Let's talk about legacy, Tiffany. When it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as the person who inspired someone else to change their life, change their community. My hope is that one lesson that I shared from my own journey will inspire someone to do great things so that I can plant seeds that sprout years and years from now. My dream is that I help someone start from the ground up and their organization is a multi-million-dollar organization 20 years from now.
And how do you make impact daily?
I encourage my followers. So I'm very, very big on encouragement. I believe that if you can't believe that you're able to achieve something, then it's very unlikely that you will. So whenever I teach or talk to my followers, I focus a lot on what they believe about themselves, how they value themselves, how they see themselves. Do they believe they should be in this place that they are? I tell them all the time, you deserve to be in the room. No one is just because people have more money than you, just because people have some perceived power, doesn't make them better than you. You have something to offer. So I try to lead with encouragement every time that I talk to people. I often talk to people on the phone or do consultations, and I always try to encourage people to let them know you are worthy and you can make an impact.
And what's on the horizon for Boss on a Budget?
My hope is to do more speaking. I love to speak. I love to train. So next year I will be focusing on doing a lot more speaking engagements and hopefully you will see me on somebody's TV.
And what is on the horizon for the next 30 days?
I will be working on my launch plan. This is a great time of the year because it's when I start planning for the next year. And so I'm launching something new at the top of the year. So I will be going deep into launching and preparing for that.
Speaking of nonprofits, is there a nonprofit or a social cause that's connected to your business?
Just all the people that I coach. So, and all the people that follow me. So I coach right now about 12 nonprofit founders, and they all are at different stages. Some have not even started yet. So they're all connected to me. For example, there's an organization called Victory for Families in Massachusetts that helps single moms with financial literacy. There's an organization in Charlotte called Despierta, and they help newly immigrated women transition. There's an organization called Homeowner Prep in San Diego, California, that's helping Black people and people of color get their first homes. There's another organization. I'm just going off the top of my head. So y'all, if I don't mention you, it's not because I favor anybody over you. One other one I think of is Journey to Hope Ministries. So they're helping foster youth in Orange County, California, transition out of the foster care system, make sure they have housing and supports. So it's just a range of nonprofits. As you can see, they do all kinds of things. They're all across the country. But, those are the ones I would say are affiliated with me right now.
And how do they find you, or someone that's listening? How should they find you?
YouTube, if you go in the search bar and just put Boss on a Budget, you will see my face pop up. And I have over 300 videos on YouTube. So you can start there just to get a feel for what it's like to have a nonprofit. And then I leave on my videos ways you can contact me, ways you can purchase products. And also on my YouTube page, like the main channel page, my email is there. So you can also email me through there.
What is the biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur?
The biggest challenge is having to constantly push and challenge yourself. If you are not pushing and challenging yourself in some area of your entrepreneurial life, then you are not growing. So it's confronting those things in you that in your personal life, yeah, you can push to the side if you choose to, but in your business life, a lot of that has to be confronted. A lot of it has to be exposed. So if you really want to grow meaningfully, you have to kind of get out of your own way and just do the work. And for a lot of people, they don't want to do that because it's hard. But I think that, at least for me, that has been the biggest challenge, like being afraid, being okay, being uncomfortable.
And when you talk about being afraid or being uncomfortable, talk about how you overcame that.
I think that's a journey. But what helps me is having accountability partners. What helps me is being upfront about what I want to do, being upfront about where I'm being challenged so that my accountability partner can lift me up, can support me in that, but also push me. And when you reveal certain things that you want to do or that you're going to do, at least for me, because of my nature, if I feel like someone knows I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, I try to get myself together. Right. So I try to get in line because I don't want that person to be disappointed in me or see me as a failure. So I think what has been really, really helpful has been accountability partners.
You've talked about the mastermind and the coaches that you've surrounded yourself with. And there's a lot of coaches out there or people hanging up shingles saying that they're coaches. How did you vet your coaches or vet the masterminds that you've connected with?
I started by seeing some content on Facebook and seeing, content on Instagram. And in this particular mastermind I'm in, Ashley does free challenges. So she has a Facebook group where she does like free 5-day challenges. And so I participated in one of those challenges, really was intrigued by the information and really loved the people she presented because she doesn't just talk, she also brings other people. So it was all Black women that were coming, talking about their own personal journeys. And so that was intriguing to me. And then, so I just kind of fell into her funnel because after I did that, I was getting emails constantly from her and she has a live event. So I went to a live event in Atlanta and, before I went, I got a call from someone on her team asking me, what my goals were, saying you would be a really good fit for this mastermind. I mean, she worked that funnel. And so when I was there during the event, I had been thinking about needing something and just being at the event, being surrounded by so many awesome people inspired me to join. So I joined while I was there and have been involved for about 9 months so far.
Tiffany, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I would like you to ask the question and answer it.
Oh, that's a hard one. What would I ask myself? I guess I feel like you probably asked me a variation of this, but maybe not. What has been the one shift or the one change that has helped transform your business? And I think for me is intentionality. I'm a planner in my, like, I like to be organized in my personal life, but not always like writing things down or like holding myself to a schedule. I'm a weird mix because I feel like I'm very organized, but I'm also a creative. I'm a musician. So I like organized chaos. So I don't like to box myself too much in. And I wasn't writing things down consistently. I wasn't holding myself to a schedule. And I realized that I need that for my personal life and to balance my business. So I've been more intentional about scheduling when I work out, scheduling when I cook, scheduling when I write, scheduling when I post content. And that has really transformed how I go about my business and how I approach just everything.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Rapid Round of Fun. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Rapid Round of Fun?
I'm ready.
Your ideal car.
An Acura Legend.
Your favorite holiday.
Christmas.
Your first job.
Ooh, I was a park ranger.
The last movie you saw.
In the movie theaters was the latest Guardians of the Galaxy. At home, Love Jones.
Your favorite comfort food.
Pass, because I can't think real quick.
You relax doing what?
Sitting on my porch.
Your favorite singer or rapper.
Female singer, Jasmine Sullivan. Male singer, Bilal.
Your favorite dance song.
I don't really have one, but I love Be Happy by Mary J. Blige.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Chicken and shrimp.
Workout or hit the couch?
Workout.
Tiffany J. Allen, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, share with our audience the best way for us to connect with you and to do business with you. And feel free to leave all your social media handles.
Awesome. So thank you, first of all, for having me. I had a blast. And you all can find me at www.bossonabudget.com. As I said before, you can find me on YouTube at Boss on a Budget or Facebook and Instagram at Boss on AB.
Thank you, Tiffany. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.